Welcome everybody to an eye opener. This is Market Wealth Daily's quick little video chats that we do with top traders, and hopefully not disappointing you. We do not have a top trader lined up for today. So here's the big news, big announcement, right? You're stuck with me anyway. Want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the eye opener market chats that we're doing. And we'll give you an idea of some really important tips that can help you with your trading. Just 3 tips we're going to focus on today that can really make a big difference in your trading. I'm going to start by kind of telling you how I came across these tips because that's really important. And it it started. I've been in this business for decades now, and I started out writing book jackets in the marketing side of things, and learned so much about trading by being around traders through osmosis. I've had an incredible privilege to be shoulder to shoulder with some of the best traders in the business, the best educators in the business, and really have studied how people learn to trade. It's not just trading, how to trade, but it's how you learn to trade. And had the agony of watching people make the same mistakes, talking to new traders and just feeling the pain of what they're going through, and then talking to the advanced traders who are plateauing and just struggling, trying to get to that next level. And it kind of goes back to the patterns that I see, not unlike looking at a chart, but if you talk to 100 really good successful traders, they're all going to have their own style. They're all going to be a little bit different. They are going to use a different indicator. They're going to have different risk tolerances, things like that. Different charting software. Maybe they're doing options. Maybe they're doing spreads. Really complicated strategies. Really simple. Everybody has their own style. That's the main point. But what you start to notice is that the really successful ones have some common traits. These traits, when you see a trait across, dozens of top traders, there's something there that's got some merit to it. And so I'm going to go through 3 of them today and share the ones that I think have the biggest impact on everybody. Um, you know, the the deal is this, right? Um, you know, when you're starting out, you're trying to figure out what your style is. And you need to find sources to get insight, to get ideas of how you're going to set up your trading process. So many times people begin trading, and it's like anything else that's new to you. You just don't know what you don't know. And you jump in, you get going, you think you got it figured out, and then bam, you get surprised. Something, just kind of blindsides you, and you're like, wow, I didn't even understand that. So then you go back. The key is to really stick with it. Now, when I have talked to all these top traders, one of the big things that you know they they talk about is risk tolerance. And risk is a subjective thing. So, here's the first tip, right? So, know your risk tolerance, know your risk profile. What are you comfortable with? And what are you not comfortable with? There's some great folks out there. I remember being in a session one time, and a trader was explaining how to make the subjective objective. So, how do you assign a number to risk tolerance? Because for me, if you're trading, you could be like, oh man, I don't like that kind of trade. Why don't you like it? How much don't you like it? How do you translate that into your strategy? So there's a couple different things. The first is a very general approach where you say, okay, I've got $100 in this trade. If I lose 90, well, I feel, or if I lose 10 and I'm down to 90, well, I feel uncomfortable. I absolutely panic and need to get out. If that's it, then $10 is your max. Yeah, you want, if it's all right, $10. Oh, that's just a drawdown. That might be a correction. I can hang in there. All right, is it $50? You lose half of it? Are you gonna? Yeah, that's gonna sting a little bit. So okay, there's your ceiling for your risk tolerance. right? So now all of a sudden you've taken that kind of gut feeling and you put a number on it, you know. It's 50 is the max, you know, you don't want to lose 50%. Write that out going into the trade if you can. I mean, just take a pencil and write on. You don't even have to keep it. You don't have to. Just the fact that you're writing it down makes it stick a little bit better. But know that going in. Where's my comfort zone on this? You know, and then use that to quantify. So build and as you trade over and over, you'll start to see a pattern with that kind of risk profile that fits you. Um, the other piece of quantifying your risk tolerance is understand your winning trade ratio. How many trades out of 10 do you win? How many do you lose? What's your average percentage of loss? And you can take those numbers and that'll help you calculate position size, risk tolerance, what your max drawdown is. So, if you look at the longer the stretch, the better. You're going to get a good piece of information. You look at a bunch of trades that you've done over the last month or wherever, or even, if you're paper trading, keep track of that. And you say, all right, I just did 10 trades and I lost 3 out of 10. That's not bad. I might have lost 6 out of 10, whatever it is. And on each trade, I lost X amount of money. I have my portfolio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that out and say, look, this is how I'm going to determine my position side. I have to be in a position in the worst case scenario to stomach 6 losing trades. Usually if you're saying, look, I got a 50-50 win rate, right? So I can take 5 losing trades out of 10 and they're $5 a piece. So I got $50 out of my $100 that I could lose. That's you, you can start to define that, but you want to be able to say, look, I want to be ready for the worst case scenario. And what happens is if I'm going through a stretch where I'm going to lose a bunch in a row, I want to make sure that I can be back in the game tomorrow. I want to make sure that I'm still there. All right, I had 100, I'm down to 50, but I still have 50. Just using simple math here. Obviously, you want, bigger account size than that, but this just simplifies it. And you're going to have losing trades. There's just no question about that. And how quick can you get out? How fast can you find the next trade? Those are the things that you just want to be able to be in a position to then pivot and respond. You know, uh, that's really important. So quantifying your risk profile is really a key part of making more money because your emotions are just a massive part of trading. And if you feel out of control, you will make bad choices. You'll panic, you'll have anxiety. If you have a plan that accounts for losing trades, you have built it in. You control this scenario, you control your strategy. Being in control will help you feel more confident than getting back in and making the next, a great analogy, baseball pitchers. You're going to have somebody who's going to rock you. You're going to throw that pitch. They're going to hit a home run, and you're just going to be like, "What do I do now?" You could easily get flustered. But if you watch them, they have a very regimented, uh, you know, pattern that they do when they pitch a ball. Their wind up, everything, the way they prep is all the same, and they just go back to the mechanics of it. So if you have this system and you have some losing trades, it's going to help you reduce the anxiety. It's going to help you be a more effective trader, and that's going to help you make more money. And you're going to be able to be in a game longer. You can stomach that drawdown, and then you can get back in the game. Now, it's easy just to talk about some of the negative things, but you got to talk about the positive too, right? So, one of the things that everybody does is you get so excited about a winner and, you can easily do the other side of that where, oh man, I just had a great trade. It really went well. I'm going to increase my position size on the next trade because I'm excited and I want more of this. I want that euphoria, right? So you have to be mindful of that. And the risk tolerance can get compromised by your euphoria, just like the stress of a losing trade. So if you have that pattern, if you have that trading rule and you're able to stick to it, that's going to be important. I can't emphasize enough how much writing down your rules makes a big difference. It triggers different parts of your brain. It will help you absorb that rule. and write it down often. The more you repeat it, the more you're triggering those parts of your brain. It's sinking in even deeper. And again, if you have that risk tolerance mapped out, you know what your comfort zone is, and you write it down, you get it drilled into your brain, it's going to make it a lot easier to do these trades, to get out there and just pull the trigger on a trade, get in, because you won't be afraid to lose. You know how to lose, and that's going to help you win more. The second thing is to be mindful of where what is a winning trade, right? So it's easy to say if I, buy a stock or an option contract and I pay $100 for it, and now I can sell it and I can get 150 back. I made 50%, but that's a winning trade, right? And we use these terms win, loss, and those have massive baggage that comes along with it. And if you watch a really good professional trader, what they'll do is they will be just as excited about losing a little as they are about winning a lot, because man, I could have got creamed and I got out and I dodged that bullet. And you reprogram your head because you think every loss is horrible. And again, it starts to give you a brain cramp. You get all flustered. Oh, well, maybe I can turn it around. I'm going to hang on to this trade for a little while. I'm going to pull up a chart here. I want to give you kind of an example on this one. And it kind of demonstrates the way you can reprogram your brain to think about this stuff a little bit differently. So, all right. So here we got a chart of Amazon. This is, current chart. Let me just refresh it. We'll bring it up. I don't think it's changed much. The market's not open yet. All right. So let's take a look here. So you're looking at a trade, right? Um, you're following this pattern and you're looking for the bottom. Okay, you see a double bottom here. In a lot of cases, that could be a really good buy signal. Then you see an update after that. All right. Then you see this, obviously it closed lower, but it opened here and it jumped up after the open. This is another confirming buy signal to buy right there. So let's just say if you didn't buy here, you bought here, you are excited, right? Okay, I got it. This is a really good signal. It's got potential. So you're looking at this trade, you're like, okay, it goes up, it goes up. All right, let's say a profit target and it's 30%, 40% on a trade. I want to be conservative. I don't want to risk too much. I want to get my 30%. And then you're going to lock in that trade. You can easily log on 2 days later and see this huge jump. And this was from Monday after there was news about the tariffs being figured out and good positive talks on the tariff situation, and the market gapped up. You could look at that and say, man, I got out, and you could be frustrated. You have to know that, look, I locked in a win. I got in here, and I got out there, I won. That's a good trade. But so many times you get that, man, I really missed out. I lost out on that because I got out too early. That could cause you to then modify your trading rules. And that is where you start to, chase your tail a little bit. And you could lose, you could modify that rule in a way that it's going to hurt you down the road. This is exceptional. This is not, you can't bank on this kind of gap up all the time. If you have a system that you can spot those, good for you, then definitely bank on it. But I haven't found that one that helps you out with that. And especially with the way the news is driving the markets these days, it's so hard to predict these things. But hey, I get in here, and I get out there, I'm a happy guy, right? I can't look back. I can't drive in the rearview mirror and say, oh man, I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that. It is going to be mental baggage that's going to, even if you don't write your rule different, you're going to be thinking about it. You just have to program that into your head that that's a win. Take that win and be excited about it, you know? Um, and, the other thing too is so reprogram your head that way. Well, let's say that this went down, maybe you saw this move and you got in here thinking, all right, well, we're going to test. I'm going to jump in and it goes down, if you get out early, you saved. It was a good trade. That's still a good trade because you didn't go all the way down here. You got to see that as, hey, I only lost using the $100 trade example, I only lost $10. I could have lost $40. So I just made $40 essentially. Because if you did lose that, you'd have to work to find another trade to make that $40 back. And now you don't have to do it. It's the same as adding $40. You're keeping your account so that you can be back in the game the next day and trade again. So reprogramming the way that you see gains and losses is really a big part of trading. And if you can get your head around that and take that emotion and rechannel it into sticking to your rules, setting up your rules and staying to it, that's really important. A lot of the pros, they do this effortlessly. I mean, it's like watching an Olympic athlete. They don't even think about half the things they're doing. So much of it is muscle memory. And that's what's going on with the pro traders. They've programmed themselves to be able to just do this as a reflex, you know. So yeah, we got kind of covering a couple of these trading tips here. And the first one is defining your risk tolerance. The second one is to reprogram your brain on how you perceive gains and losses and how that relates to your trading rules. You have to stick to your trading rules. Got a handful of folks in here. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and just drop it in the chat. I'd love to hear from everyone. And just if you have questions about this stuff, type in there and let me know. Uh, Great to appreciate everyone taking the time to join me on this. We're going to be doing these eye openers pretty much every day. So check the schedule for that. I'll be sending that out. Tomorrow we've got Ian Cooper coming in. And if you are familiar with Ian, he does our Chart of the Day newsletter. And the thing that I'm excited about is Ian really has a great approach to trading the news. And with the news being as wild and crazy as it has been, I'm really excited to have him on. I want to pick his brain about this because he's got a good way of channeling that mass media kind of frenzy and the crowd mentality that responds to it into really positive, good trades. He's got some indicators that he uses to identify those things and set it up. So definitely come on, join us tomorrow. We'll be on it. I believe it's 9 a.m. tomorrow morning with Ian Cooper. All right, so I'm going to keep going on here with the trading tips. We're heading to our third trading tip. All right, and this one, is something I think I'm a little bit biased about. When I have talked to these traders, right? Um, you know, let me put this in the context of my experience. I was in the book business, right? So we would go to conferences, we'd set up bookstores, and you'd have book signings, and authors would come by and they'd sign their books, and you get to talk to them while you're waiting for people. And I can tell you, you'd have some amazing authors that's out there with nobody coming up to sign their book, and it was awkward. You're trying to kill time, so you're talking about everything, and you start to ask them, and inevitably, I would watch these guys. Almost every trader would browse and be picking up a book. Oh, I love this book. Oh, I love that book. And the book is still books are still relevant, but for trading, I think the medium for information is now really online. Um, but the point that I took away from that was these guys were really engaged in getting other information. They were constantly looking for new ideas. And it wasn't like every word in the book had to be valuable or the book was useless. It was, oh, I read a just massive, massive tome and I got one good idea out of it, and that made it worthwhile. When you get to a point where you have a really solid trading style, or let's say you're a little bit more advanced, it's hard to find something that is, going to transform your entire approach. You could find something that's going to refine it, that's going to hone it. And the only way to do that is to perpetually be learning. You have to constantly be out there looking for information. It's easy to think that I can just jump on, I can place my trades, and that's my commitment to it. That perpetual education is really important. And again, not only have I worked with a lot of top traders, but I've had the real privilege to talk to a lot of just regular traders, people figuring it out, and watching the way that they find things that are effective for them. Coming back to them, seeing the same folks at conferences and talking to them and say, Oh, how's it going? And they're like, oh, I saw this. And I'm, how'd you find it? How'd you come across that? Oh, the key to that is this perpetual learning, but the immersion. Find ways to put, if it used to be hard. You'd have to have these meetups and people would have to get together. It wasn't as easy to connect remotely. Now you have this beauty of things like this where we're all in a online chat room and we can talk. And you guys are listening to what I have to say, but I'm sure you all have important things that you've learned as well. Put yourself in those situations constantly uh, is a great way to learn. It's like learning a new language. You can sit in a classroom and study it, but you go to a foreign country or someplace where you don't speak the language and you got to find the bathroom, you're going to figure out how to speak that language pretty quick, and technology is a great help for that. Now, there's a lot of ways you can learn online. You can do that, but it has to be perpetual and you have to immerse yourself. You have to really get yourself in there. That's also going to create some accountability. It's going to create accountability in, if you're in a group and you're contributing to the group, when you start to tell people what you're doing, you're accountable for that. People a lot of times are harder on themselves than everybody else is around them. You tell people how you're trading, or you share a trade with somebody you're comfortable telling what you're doing. Um, Now all of a sudden you're accountable to that trade. You were it just it was the same trade. If you didn't tell anybody, your brain is going to process it different, and it's going to hold you a little bit more accountable. If you told them about your rules, you're going to be more likely to stick to your rules. So that immersion, being in that, is another part of this. And as you keep learning, you're going to see you're going to get into a situation where I'm in a trade and it's getting weird. I'm trying to figure out, what do I exit now or do I wait? Now you're going to have more tools to make that decision. You're going to look at a different indicator on the chart. You're going to look at a different piece of data that's going to help you make that choice. And it's because you've been learning consistently to really, immerse yourself. Um, and those are some really great tips that have helped me a lot. Again, I learned through osmosis. I was stuck in this world uh, from the outside, and in the last again, it's almost 30 years that I've been involved in trading in one way or another. But really, in the last 10 years, have I started getting more into actually trading myself. And these are the lessons that have been had the biggest impact and the biggest success. And is you would think, having been around these guys as much, I'd have learned it a lot easier, but I didn't. There were times where I thought, oh, I can do this. I can just, go in there and you buy low, sell high, right? Really simple. And jump into it. There were times where I was phoning it in. I wasn't as committed. And, I wasn't successful. It cost me. I had to pay tuition. I lost some money and it stung, and boy, did I learn from it. I call those tuition trades. You learn a lot more when you it stings a little bit, but you can't give up. Again, circling back to that first rule about risk tolerance, that, and you can stay alive and be in the game again tomorrow. Then you're going to be able to realize the benefit of that tuition that you just paid. The worst thing is to have to go through that sting and not be able to go and apply that lesson again. So you got to do that. But you know, being around people that are in trading. And I'm really fortunate as I'm helping a lot of authors get their newsletters out and do presentations and everything. And that for me is the immersion. And it is what helps me stay focused on this and to learn new things. If I wasn't doing that, I think it would be a lot tougher. So I feel like I got an unfair advantage here. I think it would be a lot tougher. So I'm trying to be mindful of, how do other people come across this? I'm a little unique when I'm talking to everybody in these presentations. I think about that. Um, Signing up for newsletters, exploring the authors that you can relate to are great ways to get immersed. There's definitely, extremes on the ends of the spectrum. Some phenomenal traders that are just absolutely the best in the world, and there's some guys who I just don't think I can really understand what they're doing or why they're doing it that way. But there's a lot in the center there, and that becomes a preference. Try them out, listen to them. Two different people can tell you the same thing, and one time it's going to stick, and the other time it doesn't. It's how that person talks to you and how you learn. If you understand, I am an auditory learner, I am a tactile learner, meaning I learn better when I listen to somebody and somebody explains it on a podcast or an event like this, or I learn better when I'm actually doing it. So I have to be following along and actually executing it tactile. My fingers have to be touching the keys and clicking the mouse and that kind of thing. I do better when I practice, for a long time, or I don't have the patience to practice. So I need to be very careful and prudent and go out and do small trades to see if something's working for me, that kind of thing. Understanding your learning style is going to kind of make you learn more efficiently. So you'll make bigger jumps faster. You'll be better at pivoting when whatever you're doing is not working and you need to change. If you know how you learn, you uh, do a survey of, and that's like, take the free trials, check out the free events, things like that for a number of different educators. Find the one that you relate to, the one that makes sense to you, and then follow them and add to it. Talk to other people. There's a number of bands that I've listened to that I never enjoyed, and then somebody sat down with me and they're like, "Oh, check this out. Did you ever notice this?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." When you're immersing yourself in these trading rooms and stuff, find out who everybody else is listening to, who they're getting guidance from, and see if that can be, helpful to you. But the key here is, so I'm going to kind of recap all this stuff. Again, if anybody's got any questions, definitely punch them into the chat box. I want to hear from you guys. Uh, but I'm going to kind of recap this. So the first one is know your risk tolerance and be able to quantify the unquantifiable. Make the subjective objective. Know how much you're comfortable losing, how much you can afford to lose on a trade. And then by doing that, you'll be more confident in your trades. You'll be less thinking about, is that too much? Is it too, you'll have a hard number and you can trade better and you'll be able to uh, make it through trades that go down and then be there the next day to get in the next trade. You're going to have losing trades, and being able to navigate those is probably one of the most important things about trading, right? So then reprogram your brain about the way that you perceive wins and losses. And this is really important. Losing less is just as good as winning. So, you have to have the money in your account. That's what we're all doing. We're trying to get that money and we're trying to keep it there. It's great, to have a winning trade, but if you give it back the next day, it kind of defeats the purpose. So, win big, lose small. That's oversimplifying it, but there's a lot of ways that you can do that. We talked a little bit about that earlier. And then the absolute most important one, I can't emphasize enough, is keep learning, perpetually be learning new things and immerse yourself in whatever you're trying to learn. So in this case, it's trading. So find ways to immerse yourself. And to do that, you are going to have to listen to things that you don't agree with, you don't like, get through it and then go on to the next one, right? And find the ones that provide you the most constant stream of valuable information that makes sense to you, that speak to you in a language that you understand, that give you some tips that relate to the type of trading you're doing, and then stick with it and hold yourself accountable, say things out loud, write things down, and that's going to help you be perpetually learning and getting better at your trading. And all these things together, they sound very general and broad, and they are. Building a foundation of a really good program to trade is the key. It's going to make all that other stuff so much easier. It's not about each individual trade. It's about being consistent. So many times people will tell me, oh, well, I want to start trading. So and so bought Bitcoin in the beginning or bought Google and it was just coming out or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's not necessarily repeatable. What you're looking for is repeatable, constant income that helps you grow your account. So you want to be able to build that foundation so that you can be in the game, consistently making these gains. Hopefully that'll help everybody succeed. Well, great. I I am going to wrap up here. I'm hitting up on the time limit for this one. But again, hope everybody got a little bit out of this. I really love doing these sessions. And I really enjoy when people chime in. So if you ever have any questions, go ahead and shoot them in, drop them in the chat box, and shoot us an email and respond to the emails that you're getting from us or wherever. We do have a Telegram channel that we're posting stuff throughout the day. Hopefully that's got some value too. It's a little bit more real time than the email. You're very limited in how much email you can send out, and it's tough when you have a really good opportunity you want to share with everybody and you can't get it out to everyone. So take a look at that Telegram channel, and consider signing up. Well, great. Thanks everybody for jumping on today. Yep, Mary, hey, you're very welcome. I'm glad it was worthwhile. And thanks for chiming in because sometimes I wonder if what I'm saying makes any sense. So great spending a little bit of time with you this morning. Appreciate it. Check the schedule for the eye openers, pour your coffee and come on and join us. And we'll see you guys soon. Take care.